Good evening. I'm Keith Kuntz along with Ian Nyberg. Want to get you up to date with the very latest information that we're getting. And CNN reporting at this hour that there are explosions in parts of Afghanistan. That, again, the latest from CNN. And we've also learned that President Bush will address the nation at 9 o'clock tonight. And we're now looking at live pictures from CNN.
One can only guess at this hour what the explosions were, whether it's retaliatory fire from the United States on Afghanistan. We do not know who is responsible for the attacks on the Twin Towers in New York City and also at the Pentagon. New York area hospitals continue to treat a stream of victims. We do not yet have counts at all on what is happening. But as we know, American military on high alert tonight across the country as the day of terror goes on.
That's right, and all this started very early in the morning. Before 9 a.m., a hijacked plane crashed into the World Trade Center, one of the towers there. Less than 20 minutes later, another plane crashed into another tower. You can see the very chilling video, and witnesses describing at that point people leaping out of buildings to their deaths.
Then just when we thought there couldn't be more chaos, Manhattan's skyline was forever changed with the World Trade Center's two towers, as we said, that came down 110 stories. New York Mayor Giuliani is not speculating on how many people died, but the death toll, we can only speculate, is horrendous. Of course, the Pentagon being hit as well. Now, another building in the last 30 minutes collapsed just after 5 o'clock tonight, which was in the eye of where the towers fell. Right. And it was 47 stories, and it came down as well because it was so heavily damaged. All
right, and our News Channel 8 reporter Alan Cohen is live tonight in Lower Manhattan with the very latest on this story. And Alan, you are not far away from the epicenter of this tragedy.
That's correct, Keith. And some 8 hours after this all began, the smoke continues to billow from the spot where the Twin Towers used to stand. New Yorkers have seen a lot over the years, but nothing like this. Bond trader Andrew Gallagher was at his desk in Tower 2 of the World Trade Center when the first airliner slammed into Tower number 1.
I was on the 55th floor, about halfway up, and we heard a boom, and windows shook. We saw some debris flying, and we bolted out of the office.
But incredibly, Gallagher says, workers were told to stay at their desks. He got out, ran, just in the nick of time.
I was about 2 blocks away, and I turned the corner, and I heard a second boom, and all the windows shook, and I guess that's when the second plane hit the building.
Minutes later, the World Trade Center tower he worked in collapsed. He doesn't know how many friends and co-workers are gone. For hours, a steady wave of people who work in Lower Manhattan walked north to escape the smoke, soot, and devastation. Through Times Square, north to Spanish Harlem, where a fighter plane could be seen flying overhead, securing the airspace over New York City.
I can't put it in words. I'm very happy that all of my employees, my friends, are safe, but I think about the countless other people.
At the bridges and tunnels in and out of the city, chaos. Police closing Manhattan to all incoming traffic except emergency vehicles, and the thousands trying to flee a terrorist act, the magnitude of which was unimaginable until now.
It's horrifying, it really is.
It's just Pearl Harbor again.
Yeah.
And just about 30 minutes ago, yet another building next to the World Trade Center collapses, this one a victim of collateral damage. This incredible day of tragedy and destruction continues. Keith and Ann, back to you.
All right, Alan, thank you. We want to go back now to our live pictures from CNN. As we just told you, there have been explosions in Afghanistan. Again, these are breaking news. These are pictures from CNN. And this is, we're told, 8 or 9 miles outside of Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. And
it's thought that they may have hit, and we can only guess that some kind of fighter jets hit some kind of a gas refinery there. We can see tracer fire going up. You
can see the presence of a fire in the far left of the
Now, what you're seeing are live pictures. This is new technology that has been used in the last year or so from CNN. They're called video phones. I don't know if we can actually go to CNN Live and listen to the correspondent. Can we do that, Rachel?
Okay,
we cannot do that right now. But you're seeing more fire going up, and we don't know if those are explosions or tracer fire.
Right, and we're told that the target may have been a fuel dump but we'll no doubt get more information on that as the evening wears on. Now, Osama bin Laden is at the top of the list of the suspects in connection with today's terrible attack.
And the editor of an Arab newspaper in England says he was warned by Islamic fundamentalists weeks ago that there would be a huge attack.
Now, in the wake of these terrible attacks, Governor Rowland and state officials are and have been taking actions to make sure that things operate as smoothly as possible here in Connecticut.
And the governor has said that the state is safe, although in New Haven there was a suspicious suspicious package being checked into, but the trains are still running, so apparently that is nothing. Mark, go ahead. What do you have at this hour at 6 minutes after 6?
All right, good evening, Ann. Good evening, Keith. Good evening, everyone from the Emergency Management Center at the State Armory here in Hartford. The Armory was actually activated and locked down about 15 minutes after the second airplane struck the World Trade Center shortly after 9 o'clock this morning. And the governor has been here throughout the day and had 2 appearances here to assure people, first of all, that the state was safe and that bomb-sniffing dogs had gone through at Bradley International Airport, and also that there were 2 high priorities, one to assist New York City and to help Connecticut people get out of New York City. Here's some of what the governor said.
Obviously, one of our biggest concern is Connecticut residents who may have been working in the World Trade Center building or near the scene in New York City. It's going to take many hours and in some cases perhaps days before we're able to have a full accounting of those who may have been killed or injured during today's attack.
Depot or something.
Here you see this morning, this was about 9:30 at the Ribicoff Federal Building in downtown Hartford, where some 500 federal employees work in various federal agencies. They were evacuated, actually it was about 9:40 or 9:45 a.m. Also, the federal court is located there. Court was closed and people were escorted out and told to go home. And it was shortly after that, you can hear the marshal there telling our camera to move away.
Really?
The
You mean they're still
state office buildings were also closed about 15 or 20 minutes later on order from the governor. Now, as far as train traffic from New York, it was suspended for a while this morning, but at about 11:30 a.m., the State Department of Transportation and the governor announced here that train traffic from Grand Central Station had resumed back to New Haven and Fairfield counties, and that 2 trains per hour should continue and would continue at least until 8 p.m. tonight, and that extra buses would be added to the train stations in downstate. Also, the governor announced that National Guard heavy construction equipment, some 20 pieces, are in the process of being moved to Lower Fairfield County to a staging area in Norwalk for the disposal and the use of New York City officials in retrieving and pulling away the wreckage from the World Trade Center disaster. Also, all of the Air National Guard helicopters here in Connecticut were placed on standby, and at least 4 helicopters and 6 persons are actually at the site for the purpose of helping out. Also, the Department of Children and Families and the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services has dispatched teams to Lower Fairfield County hospitals to try to help with any crisis management that may be needed. Also, there are 900 beds available. As far as we know, only a few people have been brought to Greenwich and Stamford hospitals. The governor will be in Stamford tonight, where there is another command center at the Stamford train station. Back to you.
All right, Mark, thank you.
Thank you.
We want to go live now to Andrea Stassi, where we were reporting just about an hour or so ago where they were looking at a suspicious package, but train traffic was still running through. What's the deal with that, Andrea?
A lot of reunions, I would imagine, as well tonight.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Let me just update you on that earlier situation. Good. Just moments ago, members of the New Haven bomb squad and police with the Mass Transit Authority out of New York City left the train station. They ended their investigation. They had been investigating a suspicious package found on the platform. We are told, luckily, that package did not contain anything dangerous. However, there is still a heavy police presence here at the train station. As you can see behind me, there are also some ambulances here. There are paramedics standing by in case folks getting off trains from New York need help. They are referring to them as the walking wounded. They are here to help them if they need help. Meantime, we are hearing so many unbelievable stories from people who were in New York and witnessed this horrible tragedy. Emotional exchanges at New Haven's Union Station. Family members embraced loved ones returning from Lower Manhattan, many dazed and clearly shaken after witnessing incredible tragedy.
On the way to PS 89, I saw the second plane
go in the side of the North Tower, One World Trade, a huge ball of flames and smoke coming out. And at that point, I decided to leave the city.
People, when you looked up and saw people falling out of the sky, I thought my life was over. That was it. Things were going to fall on me. We were ducking. We didn't know which way to turn, which way to look, which way to run. Just run.
Many escaped to Connecticut by train, one of the few ways out of the city, after witnessing the most horrific sight of their lives.
And I was just standing there, and I saw the second plane come in from the right. You know, it was just like, it was weird, just surreal. You knew what it was doing, but you just couldn't believe it. And as soon as it hit, I left. I mean, people were like in shock. And I just decided I'm going home.
We kind of got a little freaked out about it, a little unsafe, so we just came back to Connecticut.
Inside the station, paramedics stood by to tend to the walking wounded. Meantime, New Haven's bomb squad investigated a suspicious package found on the platform. Luckily, it was a false alarm. Now, behind me, you don't see much right now, but I can tell you that when those trains arrive, there are dozens of people getting off. We are witnessing some very tearful exchanges. Imagine the relief for the families waiting here. They're telling us stories. It took them an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours just to reach their loved ones by phone to know that they're okay. Tonight, they have them back home safely, but they say their prayers go out to those families who are in need tonight. Ann and Keith, back to you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Okay, we want to go back live now to our pictures from CNN from Afghanistan that we showed you just a moment ago. You can see something burning in the distance, and this is about 8 or 9 miles outside of Kabul. This is the capital of Afghanistan.
And we do think, or at least first reports from CNN, is that fighter jets may have hit a gas depot there. Of course, this is the home of Osama bin Laden. And there was some tracer fire seen as well. As you continue to look at the live pictures from CNN, we also have been talking a lot about the World Trade Towers and the Pentagon, but there was also a fourth plane that went down outside of Pittsburgh today. Yeah. And there was some speculation, although not confirmed, that that plane, which had also been commandeered, a fourth plane, may have been headed for Camp David. It instead crashed outside of Pittsburgh, and a passenger told an emergency dispatcher that they were able to get a cell phone call out of that plane that crashed outside of Pittsburgh that it was indeed being commandeered and hijacked, and it's believed that there are no lives that were saved on board that jet.
And as we go away from those pictures from Afghanistan, also the Associated Press reporting that that nation's hardline Taliban rulers rejected suggestions that Osama bin Laden was responsible for the terror attacks in New York or Washington. That from that country's hardline rulers.
And it is also known, according to the Associated Press, that there is a day of mourning tomorrow in Israel, and the state of Israel is on full alert as well as we speak.
All right, as you can imagine, it's been a very chaotic day in New York City. People trying to leave the city via train. News Channel 8's Aaron Cox is live at the Stamford train station, where a lot of people have come through. Aaron, what's the latest from there right now?
Well, Keith, the trains are still coming through, but fewer and fewer people are getting off. The most people getting off earlier this afternoon. Of course, relief and reunions here tonight. As these commuters come off the train, they just look in our camera and they say, "I am so glad to be home." Lots of hugs. The first thing they're doing, getting on their cell phone, also to the pay phones, because their phones didn't work in New York City. I heard one girl say, "Just tell Dad I'm at the train station and I'm okay." Also, the medical teams are here. You have to remember there are 27,000 Connecticut commuters who go into New York City every day, 12,000 from Stamford alone. Many say they're just relieved they were able to get out.
My family is scared, so, you know, there are multiple reasons. It didn't seem to me a smart thing to do.
We were watching, and a few minutes later we saw the second one go out. Then I was on the train, and I thought I was shook up, and a girl sitting across from me had been in the second tower, and she said she saw bodies falling from the first tower.
I highly doubt that any of us will be going to work in New York tomorrow.
The state police have set up a command center, and as you heard Mark Davis report, Governor Rowland is expected here later this evening. Annie Keith, to tell you a side story, there was a father and 3 young children who came to the train station to pick up their mother. He pulled out of his pocket and showed me. I was at the playground, and the school was passing this out, trying to tell us how to explain this to our kids. He said, "I didn't let them watch TV, and I didn't tell them about it." Back to you.
All right, Aaron Cox, thank you.
We want to remind you.
All right, Aaron Cox, thank you.
We We want to remind you that all planes across the country, the first time in the nation's history, all planes are grounded everywhere. There's no air traffic until at least noon tomorrow.
All right, and that would certainly include Bradley International Airport and Windsor Locks. That's where News Channel 8's Jody Latina is right now. She's been there for the balance of the day. What's going on up there, Jody?
Well, Keith, it's been clear here for about 7 hours now, nothing going in or out. The only planes that we did see were actually helicopters, and those were from the National Guard. Those took off shortly after 11 this morning. That was after they announced that they would be telling folks to get their baggage, to get back off the plane. Some were on the tarmac ready to go. Some passengers describing to us that the flight crew and the captains came over the monitors and the speakers and telling them that there was a terrorist attack on American soil and they would not be going out anywhere. So as you can imagine, lines backed up inside at those ticket counters as the airline folks tried to really scramble to keep folks calm, but to also let them know that they really did need to make some phone calls to find folks to pick them up at the airport, to make arrangements to stay at hotels. And also, they're not allowing anyone really near the airport. We've been pushed about a half a mile away from the main terminal. They've got state police troopers at the entrances. There were bomb sniffing dogs earlier, and anyone that might have business at the airport is being asked to show a photo ID. Again, a heightened sense of security. No airport planes coming in or out, and that remains the status quo across the nation. Back to you.
All right, Jody, thank you.
All right, we want to remind you hotline numbers are being set up to find out about friends or relatives that may have been involved in the attacks. This is so hard to sort out, and obviously the lines are going to be jammed. The first one, American Airlines, 1-800-245-0999.
That's right. United Airlines set up a hotline number as well. It also is toll-free, 1-800-932-8555. The American Red Cross has set up a crisis number. It is 1-877 Red Cross. There's also a local number, area code 203-787-6721.
We also want to remind you that President Bush will address the nation. We're getting it at 9 o'clock Eastern time. We do not know where he will be talking from. He has been shuttled
on the move.
all over the country, all
Florida,
over the day.
Louisiana, and Omaha today as well.
His whereabouts are still secret.
All right, we've got the Red Cross also tells us they're just getting flooded with calls for people wanting to donate blood. And we want to let you know about a couple of local blood drives. The Omni Hotel in New Haven will host a blood drive from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. on Wednesday. And you can call area code 203-974-6801 to make an appointment there. New Haven Hospital also holding a blood drive from Wednesday at 7 a.m. It'll last until 4:45 p.m. And if you can't attend, then you want to donate, please call the American Red Cross at the numbers that we just passed along to you.
And the Red Cross is going to need your help today, tomorrow, possibly for months.
That's right. And a lot of victims of the terror attack into hospitals, at hospitals, perhaps even headed to Connecticut hospitals.
We don't even know the toll or how many people may be coming here. News Channel 8's Sarah Welch was at Bridgeport Hospital. She joins us now live. Bridgeport Hospital, Sarah, as most folks know, have a burn unit there.
Absolutely, and members of Bridgeport Hospital staff have been on standby at the train station throughout the day, as well as local firefighters and police and state police, just in case those injured are taken to the Bridgeport area. It's unfathomable, heartbreaking to think of all those people who are inside the Twin Towers this morning. We spoke with one of them, a Connecticut man from Oxford, who described to us the sheer terror and pandemonium as people tried to get out.
I was on the 24th floor, and the first plane hit, and the building rocked to the right and back. And I opened the door of the conference room, and I saw the plane go by and people falling. It's all right, Dad. And then we started to go down the stars, and we got down to about 16, and all the doors on the World Trade Center, they lock. So we got down to about probably about 15 or 13, 14, and I said, you know, there was just a traffic jam of people trying to get down. And I said, everybody back up, back up. Everyone was yelling, back up. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. I just want to get home. I want to get you home.
And we went back up. I'm starting to calm down now. We went back up.
Do you want to stop for a sec?
No, I just want to go home. We went back up, we regrouped.
Randy, where's the car?
The firemen started coming through, and They let us down. Company 22 in New York City. Freaking heroes. Not one of them had fear in their eye. They all just kept going up. And we got down to the bottom in the plaza. There was bodies everywhere. They were all on fire and broken. It was just the most horrific thing you've ever seen in your life. And then we got out, and I had a thing of oxygen in my hand and a fire extinguisher, and I must have carried it 3 blocks before I even realized I had it. And then I just bumped into this guy, and we just started walking, and we walked from the Trade Center to 33rd Street, and everybody was lined up trying to hitchhike out of the tunnel. It was like, you know, and this guy pulled up in a pickup truck and drove me all the way to the ferry, and I got home. And I'm home now.
That was Jimmy Visquenza Jr. of Oxford, Connecticut. As he left, his wife said to us she was just so incredibly grateful that she had her husband home tonight, and that her prayers go out to so many other families. Again, the teamwork at the train station in Bridgeport, absolutely incredible. Many of those Bridgeport firefighters have said that they want to go into the city and help with the recovery. Keith and Ann?
All right, Sarah, such a touching story. What do you have to say? Thank you.
It is. Well, we want to go live now to LaGuardia Airport, where we join Leon Collins. Leon, what can you tell us? What a day.
Well, and we're out here outside of LaGuardia Airport. You can see it's an eerie sort of a quiet over LaGuardia Airport, having been closed most of today. I spoke to a man at a hotel across the street from where I'm standing. He said his airline told him there's no way that they were going to have any flights out of here before Friday. And I think at this hour, we'd only be speculating as to when things might get back to normal. I have to tell you, on my way down to New York City today, it was like a scene I had never seen before. We were crossing the Whitestone Bridge. People, this was about probably 20 minutes, a half an hour after the 2 towers had collapsed. People had stopped their cars mid-span on the Whitestone Bridge and were watching the huge plumes of smoke just billowing out of Lower Manhattan. As we worked our way down to the Brooklyn side of the Brooklyn Bridge, the scene was somewhat surreal. Lady Liberty bravely held her torch as if she were trying to light smoky New York Harbor on a day that will go down in infamy. As the mass exodus from the city headed away, some people watched the disaster scene as others told what happened.
And all of a sudden I heard this loud roar, and I looked up, and this big-ass airplane, I just watched hit the building. The explosion knocked me into the fence.
What was presumed to be part of a large-scale terrorist attack paralyzed New York City. Stunned people, emergency vehicles, and clogged highways made the quest for safety a common but difficult objective.
It was right there.
Wait, where in the picture?
Right here.
Okay.
Both World Trade Centers were there.
We saw the plane go into the building, pretty much. Yeah. It crashed into the building right in front of our eyes. Our school is right across the street it's pretty much right across the street from the Twin Towers.
And I saw the first building with probably 50, 75 floors just totally in flames with smoke billowing out of them.
Many people cried in this great city today for loss of life and for a New York skyline that will sadly never be the same.
We ran for our lives because everything was just coming right at us. The smoke, debris. I've never seen anything like it. There are bodies everywhere, debris. It's horrible.
I think the saddest thing I heard today was from some police officers who were on the Brooklyn Bridge. And from the time that the planes crashed into the towers to the time that they collapsed, a lot of rescue workers, firefighters, police, many other types of New York City people were inside those buildings. And the officer told me he could hear other firemen, he could hear other police officers trying over their radios, obviously people who had been caught in the collapse, saying, "I'm stuck, I'm being crushed, I don't know where I am, I'm crying, I'm being crushed, please come save me." It was just sad, he told me, for him to stand there and not to be able to help his brother, firefighters, police, on a day like today. They're all brothers. We now go to my colleague. Well, first we'll go back to the anchors. Ann and Keith, back to you. Just a horrible scene down here in New York City.
There's no way to describe it, Leon. Just no way.
All right, we've just got this in from the Associated Press, and the AP is reporting the Greyhound bus has canceled all of its service throughout the Northeast. The bus company Greyhound has also closed all of its terminals in the Northeast within 1 mile of any federal office building. So again, Greyhound reacting as well. Greyhound shutting down service in the Northeast and terminals being closed anywhere near a federal office building within 1 mile.
What we begin to realize now is that America is paralyzed tonight. None of us have seen anything like this. The airports are shut down. The buses are shut down, especially in the Northeast area. We're checking on Amtrak to see. It is really unimaginable what is happening right now. And as we speak, the capital of Afghanistan is under fire. That is the nation that gives a home to a terrorist, Osama bin Laden. Although he is saying that he had nothing to do with the attacks, the capital outside of Afghanistan is under attack.
Now, 2 of the commercial planes that were involved in these terror attacks came out of Logan International Airport in Boston early this morning. That's where News Channel 8's Ken Pierce is this evening. Ken?
Good evening, Keith. And now that we turn our attention to the investigation into how this happened, why the World Trade Center was the target, and who is responsible for it, Boston's Logan Airport has to be ground zero for federal authorities. It's still speculation, of course, but it seems like a pretty good bet at this point that somehow hijackers got on board 2 planes this morning, American Airlines Flight 11 and United Airlines Flight 175. The planes took off within 15 minutes of each other and crashed into the World Trade Center 18 minutes apart, killing all 157 people aboard and who knows how many others on the ground. Right now, Logan is basically deserted. Take a look at some pictures that were taken not too long ago, and you can see that, as with all airports around the country, no planes have been allowed to land or take off here today since mid-morning. Unlike most other airports, however, Logan is now the scene of an intense federal investigation to see if and how security was breached. The head of security for the Massport Authority described how the security system works and who is responsible.
It's a system that we have in place where there are various security responsibilities shared by the airport and by the air carriers under the direction of the FAA. The actual operation of the security checkpoint is an airline responsibility.
There were, of course, many additional questions. Were weapons smuggled on board? Was it done through passenger entry or somehow through a ground crew? And were there other attempts at hijacking that failed? We try asking all of these questions from Massport officials, and we get the same pat answer time and time again, that this is an ongoing federal investigation and they cannot reveal any information that would compromise that. Obviously, it's the officials doing their job, but as we found out all day long, nothing new to report on who is responsible.
All right, Ken, would imagine we aren't going to get a whole lot of official information coming out of Logan in the immediate future. Thank you.
All right, we now want to go back live to the New Haven Green, where people are just praying. The nation is praying. We have no idea of the magnitude of Connecticut victims, but in the hours and the days to come, we will begin to learn that. Verna?
Well, Keith and Ann, residents have pretty much dispersed from the Green. You can't see the area around me, but there are people still milling about, kind of giving each other words of encouragement. They came down to the Green today to hear from ministers, rabbis, priests from various churches and synagogues in the area, just to hear something about what they should be doing, how they should channel their feelings, what they should do as far as looking to God. And this actually has been a very big source of tranquility. Churches all along the area of the Green actually opened their doors very early today to allow people to come inside, to pray, to spend some time, to think about what actually happened today. One of those churches, I'm standing here right now with Beverly Delotte. She attends one of those churches, First Church of Christ. We saw people out here, and you saw people in your church today who were crying, people who were upset, people who just want to know why this happened. What were they able to do and get from the church today?
People who stopped by Center Church today were just able to meditate, talk to our pastor, just find some kind of solace, bring some kind of relaxation to their spirits after hearing such a traumatic event.
Okay. And really quickly, how are you feeling on a personal level about this?
It's tough. It's tough. When you think of the people who are impacted by this, how far, how wide it's going to go, there are people who live here in New Haven who are impacted by this. This is going to be nationwide. This is a global event.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, Verna, we're going to interrupt you. We're sorry, we need to go right to network.
All right, I'm Peter Jennings.